All right, let's dive into something pretty wild today. We're talking about Gnosticism. It's this ancient belief system that flips everything you might know about religion completely on its head. It asks a pretty startling question. What if our world isn't some divine masterpiece, but more like a cosmic prison? And what if the God that so many people worship is actually the jailer? It's a radical idea for sure. So let's unravel this secret history together. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if the very fabric of our reality, everything we see and touch, was all just a mistake? And the grand creator? A fraud? For the ancient Gnostics, this wasn't just some edgy philosophical question. No, for them, this was the fundamental, shocking truth of our existence. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the core of the Gnostic bombshell. You know, most religions put the creator on the highest possible pedestal. But the Gnostics? They did the unthinkable. They knocked him right off the throne. And that single, radical act changes absolutely everything. So you're probably wondering, how could they possibly justify an idea like that? Well, to understand Gnosticism, you have to start by understanding its central villain, a flawed, lesser god creator. So let's meet this character. He's called the Demiurge. Now, the word itself just means craftsman in Greek. But in the Gnostic story, he is no master builder. He's an arrogant and in many ways a deeply ignorant architect of our physical reality, a reality the Gnostics saw as a flawed, imperfect spiritual prison. And what's so fascinating is how they took this idea and just completely twisted it. See, the philosopher Plato first came up with the Demiurge as this neutral, rational force. But the Gnostics took that concept and turned him into a villain, an ignorant tyrant. And then, here's the most radical part. They often identified this flawed creator with the God of the Old Testament. I mean, that was a move that was beyond heretical at the time. So the most important thing to get here is that this Demiurge, and he goes by a few names, like Yaldabaoth or Samael, he is not the ultimate God. He's a lesser being, and he is completely ignorant of the true, perfect reality that exists above him. But in his arrogance, he declares that he is the one and only God. And this leads the Gnostics to a stunning conclusion, that most conventional religion is, without even knowing it, the worship of this flawed imposter. Okay, so if the Demiurge isn't the true God, where on earth did he come from? Well, the answer to that is a story in itself, a kind of cosmic tragedy that accidentally kicked our whole flawed reality into motion. Before our world, before time, before any of this, there was the Pleroma. You can think of it as this perfect spiritual reality, a realm of pure light and absolute fullness. And it was inhabited by these divine beings called eons, which were like aspects or emanations of the true, unknowable God. Now, the central character in this whole cosmic drama is the youngest of these aeons, Sophia. Her name literally means wisdom, and she was driven by this intense desire, this curiosity to know the ultimate source of everything, this unknowable Father. And in her passion, she acted alone, and that broke the divine harmony. Her passionate but ultimately flawed attempt to grasp the infinite led to her falling from the Pleroma. And this fall, well, it resulted in a kind of cosmic miscarriage, an aborted, deformed creation that was born out of her anguish and her confusion without any kind of divine consent. And that creation was Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge. And that right there is the Gnostic origin story for our world. The Demiurge, completely ignorant of the perfect realm he'd just come from, created our universe as a clumsy, flawed copy. It's not a divine masterpiece, it's a poor imitation, a shadow of the real thing. Okay, so the world is a prison, created by a flawed god born from a cosmic accident. That sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? But Gnosticism isn't about despair. It actually offers a way out. And that brings us to our third section, awakening the divine spark that's hidden inside all of us. The key to escaping this prison is something called gnosis. Now, this is really important. This is not about book learning or just believing in something. It's a direct, mystical, transformative inner knowing. It's the ultimate red pill moment, that sudden awakening to the shocking truth that a piece of the divine, a spark of that true light from the Pleroma, is trapped inside of you, just waiting to be set free. Gnostics often had this way of seeing humanity in three basic categories. First, you had the Hylics. These were people who were seen as purely material, completely bound to the Demiurge's world. Then you had the Psychics, who operated on the level of soul and faith and could achieve a kind of salvation through that. But then there was the third group, the Pneumatics.
These were the spiritual ones, the people who were born with that divine spark and were destined to awaken through Gnosis and achieve true liberation.
And that really sums up the whole goal. For a Gnostic, it's not about trying to make this flawed world a better place. I mean, why would you want to polish the bars of a prison? The real goal is to escape it completely by awakening that inner light and finally returning to the pleroma, to your true home.
So this all brings us to our final section. What does this spiritual path actually look like in practice? How do you live this out? Well, it's a faith built not on obedience or rules, but on freedom and inner knowing. And here you see the difference in black and white. The demiurge is an arrogant tyrant. He demands worship, he demands obedience. But the true good God of the Gnostics, that God needs absolutely nothing from you. In fact, it's the other way around. This God seeks out a unique, personal connection with every single individual. There isn't one path to truth, there are billions. This whole individual approach is baked into their core principles. The Gnostic path is all about rejecting blind obedience. It's about free inquiry and your own direct personal experience. They didn't believe in a single holy book because they thought truth could be found everywhere. And instead of a bunch of complex dogmas, their highest law was often incredibly simple: never harm another being. For them, true divinity wasn't found in judgment or rules, but in the actual experience of love, mercy, and renewal. The science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, whose work is just drenched in Gnostic ideas, put it so beautifully: fish cannot carry weapons. It's such a powerful little metaphor, isn't it? A faith that is truly built on love and inner knowing, well, it has no need for force or fear or control. Its very nature makes all that stuff impossible. And we'll end with this strange and beautiful quote from the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. It really speaks to the deeply personal and maybe even selective nature of this whole quest. It suggests it's not a path for the masses, but a profound individual journey of awakening. So what does it mean to be the one chosen from 1,000, and to find that kind of unity on what feels like a very solitary path? Well, that is the question that Gnosticism leaves for each of us to discover for ourselves.